Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Saturday, the 17th of January, which makes this the news and events for Friday, January 16th, day 1422 of Russia's three-day special military operation. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you from this major European capital currently under siege. And I see that the peeps are coming in. Hey, Anthony, Tommy Tom. Hey, Nightshade. How you guys doing? Hey, Lars. Hey, Nicola Jones. Hey, Dub. Toronto, Canada's here. I'm a big fan of Toronto. Hey, Seawolf. Hey, Nightshade. Hey, The Kid. Hey, Rob Walker. Hey, Richard Prexis. Chef Deb, Erling, Garden. How's everybody doing? Hey, G2. Hey, Bernard. Good to see you. Hey, Vittoria. Buonasera. I have a feeling that RF cannot count days. Yeah, you're not wrong. Mr. Olympios, Renee. Hey, Gary. Hey, Bjorn. Bjorn is here. Jan K says, boom, baby. Hey, Jan Halverson. Jan and Jan came in right after each other there. It's as if life is not confusing enough, you two. Hey, Paul. Hey, Lola. Hey, Flip. How you doing, brother? Jean-Marquis, bonsoir. Ça va? Yvonne. Hey, Pete. Hey, Parda. Richard Prexis is here. Looking a bit warmer tonight. It is a bit warmer in here. The heat is on. And as long as there's electricity, I have the supplemental electric. That's the big deal. As long as there's electricity, it's not so bad. It's very manageable. But I'm very fortunate, right? I'm right in. Hey, Van. Evening, guy. Hey, Rick. I'm right in the heart of Kyiv. I'm less than a mile from the presidential residence. I'm less than a mile from the parliament. It's the capital. Of course, this is what's going to get fixed first. That puts me in a position where I am much more fortunate than 3 million other Ukrainians who live in this same city. The things I'm hearing from my friends, I have one friend who hasn't had any power for 72 hours. I heard a report today of a woman on the left bank who had power yesterday for 26 minutes. It's not good, right? It's the opposite of good. And it is frigid outside. The highs are sub-zero. Our high today was 17 Fahrenheit, which what is that, about -8 Celsius. That was the high. The low tonight, right now, I think outside it's -17 Celsius, which is about 3 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's sub-freezing. Well below freezing, no matter which measurement you use. And I have yet to hear of any reported deaths from the cold. But you know there's going to be them. It's going to happen. For everybody who says, well, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way, because what I want to talk about tonight, where I really want to start, is with the fact, and it's a fact, motherfuckers, it's a fact, that we are 17 days, basically 2 weeks, into 2026. And it is the worst year that Putin has had of this war. Absolutely the worst. Now, why do I say that? Well, we may be shivering here in Kyiv. We might be dealing with ongoing blackouts. But you know what? The Ukrainians here have been dealing with this for 4 winters. This is the 4th winter of this bullshit. Denis Shamal, the new energy secretary, said today that in the last year, the Russians have struck 612 times against power plants inside of Ukraine. 612 strikes on power plants. There is no longer a single power plant in the entire country that has not been hit by a Russian drone or missile. And the whole point is to freeze the population into submission, right? That's the goal. Even though it failed with the Battle of Britain, even though it always fails, the only thing this kind of pressure does is strengthen the resolve of people to resist. Just like we're seeing with the ICE demonstrations in Minneapolis. There were some demonstrations, there was some pushback against ICE in Minneapolis. Then they murdered that woman. And now the crowds are on the streets by the tens of thousands every day. They cannot move in that city. Increasingly, we are getting videos of them being chased away from places that they intended to raid. So the will of the people is not to be thwarted. It's not. And as bad as this is for the Ukrainians have been dealing with it this is the 4th winter of dealing with it. Okay, they've learned a few things. They get shit working again, as you can see, right? Now, I'm not saying that I've got power 24 hours a day. I'm not saying there aren't interruptions. There are, right? We may even have some during this live. But the Ukrainians are resilient. Russia is not. And here's the evidence. And this is my first piece of evidence for 2026 being the worst year for Russia to date. They are evacuating Belgorod. So you guys know we've talked about the strikes on the thermal power plants in Belgorod, the heating and water systems and electricity systems in Belgorod, to the tune of 800,000 people being left in the dark with no heat last week. Well, they can't get their shit fixed, and the governor has admitted defeat, and he's evacuating the city. Now, how are you going to hide from the Muscovite uncles and aunts and cousins that are going to take in hundreds of thousands of refugees from inside Russia? How are you going to hide that you can't get your infrastructure back online? It's a bad move. It's a bad situation for the Russians. Now, I got a laundry list of shit here that has gone wrong for the Russians since January 1st. But I want to start with this quote. See if you can tell me who this quote is from. Diplomacy, the search for compromise, are increasingly being replaced by diplomacy and the search for compromise are increasingly being replaced by unilateral and very dangerous actions. Instead of a dialogue between states, there is a monologue of those who, by the right of the strongest, consider it permissible to dictate their will. Anybody want to guess who said this? Diplomacy, the search for compromise, are increasingly being replaced by unilateral and very dangerous actions. Instead of a dialogue between states, there is a monologue of those who, by the right of the strongest, consider it permissible to dictate their will. Any guesses who said this? Ooh, it sounds like Winston Churchill, doesn't it, Pete? It's got that sensibility. I can say that's a good guess, but no, somebody contemporary. Thomas Jefferson, Bill Clinton. Too many big words for Trump. I agree. My friends, Miller is the closest answer so far. Because this sounds intelligent. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? This is Vladimir Putin speaking yesterday at a greeting ceremony for new ambassadors. This is Vladimir Putin speaking. Right, Bip? It would be so funny if it weren't so tragic. If it weren't so... Did you get it, Lola? I didn't see your answer. Good call. Good call. You got a nose for bullshit, girl. Because this is all the right thing to say. But the actions of this genocidal lunatic are not in alignment with his words. Every accusation from this bastard is a confession. And there it is in black and white. Now, the very fact that he is saying these reasonable things in a most unreasonable time, I think is indicative of a person who is under a great deal of pressure. Not only are we seeing areas of Russia evacuated because the Russians can't get the infrastructure back online, we are watching Russia's geopolitical capital in the world wane. Two major allies, Venezuela is already lost, and many analysts are predicting the fall of the Iranian regime. That may be coming near term too. On top of that, we see the Russian mill bloggers, and indeed today in Izvestia, a Russian paper, there was yet another opinion piece saying to cut Cuba loose, that we cannot help Cuba. They are too far away, they are too unimportant, they are too tertiary for us. Leave them to the Americans. Just in the press, cutting loose an 80-year alliance. Well, 70. There's the scandal in South Africa, which we haven't really talked about. I don't know if Tina's here or any of the other South Africans are here. Maybe you can remind me of the president's name. I forgot to write it down. But his daughter has been indicted on charges that she helped traffic 17 South Africans to Russia to get security training so that they could come back and work as security officers. And when they arrived in Russia, their passports were taken and they were sent to the front. Now, the daughter denies that she had any involvement, that she was duped in the same way that the men were. But there is this scandal causing tensions with the Russians. And then we have the unbelievable weirdness of joint exercises between Iran, I want to say Iran, Russia, and somebody else, maybe China, off the coast of South Africa. And for some reason, the South Africans ordered the Iranian boat to leave the area so they wouldn't have them participate in these exercises, whatever was happening there. The erosion. So the scandal in South Africa is causing tension between Pretoria and Moscow. The erosion of Russia's influence in the world is clear for all to see, even as they struggle on the battlefield not to advance, but rather to just hold the line where it is, because nobody's advancing. There's small advances down around Juliopol, where the Russians are putting a lot of energy in right now, but no gains of any kind. And we've got word now that for the first time in the war, and this is important, the first time in the war, Russian conscription is failing to keep up with battlefield losses. The Russians are losing about 30,000 men a month, and they're only recruiting right now just about 13,000 a month. That is not sustainable. And it explains why we see this pipeline of African mercenaries being fed into the meat grinder all up and down the line, because Russia doesn't have the men. And they know damn well that if they try what they did in September of 2022 with a general mobilization, or as they called it, a partial mobilization, Russian society won't tolerate it. The Russian people may be screaming for Ukrainian blood. They may be screaming to see Ukrainians left in the dark to freeze to death, but they do not want to actually have any part of it. And they certainly don't want to be inconvenienced by it. Then there's the economic problems. Holy cow. Bloomberg has a great piece out today. They compared the oil price over the last 4 months, right up until the first week ending January 4th. Exports are down 10% from the month before. And the price, the average price per barrel for week ending January 4th is $35 a barrel. $35 a barrel, my friends, is the number that the Russian central bank says is a crisis point for the nation. That oil below $36 a barrel puts them into a crisis mode. And it looks like that's the case that we're in. That's the situation that we're in. Remember, the Russian budget for 2026 is based on $59 a barrel oil. 59 to 35 is a $22 deficit that is going to crack the Russian federal system. They can't afford this. They certainly cannot afford to have their tankers being seized. And now we've seen the U.S. seize tankers. We've seen the Swedes seize tankers. We've seen the French seize tankers. We've seen now the Germans today refuse to let a Russian zombie tanker into their territorial waters. And the ship, therefore, couldn't transit the Baltic to the Atlantic to deliver its cargo, and it had to turn around and go back to Murmansk. Bloomberg estimates that today there are 190 million barrels of oil on tankers with no destination. Nobody to take it. It's just being stored on the tanker at sea. Not a good look. Not a good look. Now, the question came up about inflation yesterday, and I didn't have any good numbers, but I found some today. Inflation continues to remain high inside the Russian Federation. The price of potatoes has risen just 6%. Has risen 6% since the first of the year. Tomatoes are up 13.6% since the first of the year. And cucumbers are up 21.3% since the first of the year. The official inflation rate in Russia continues to hover between 8 and 9%, though many external analysts believe that it is much higher. Particularly, I would point you to Hankey's, who believes it's running at about 24, 25% internally. It just doesn't get better. As crazy as 2026 is for all of us watching America slide into fascism and wear it like a comfortable old coat. The deteriorating economic situation as oil and gas revenues plummet are coffin nails to the Russian Federation's economy. Oil revenues are down by 44% year over year for the month ending December. There is increasing frustration among Russian society, who are living a lower and lower standard of living. The government is turning to them and taxing them more, even as they have less income to spend on their own basic needs. The value-added tax was raised from 20 to 22% in an effort to bring in more revenue to fund the war. So now, rather than the government making more revenue because the tax is higher, it is projected that the government will lose tens of millions in rubles of tax revenue because consumers can't afford the things that are taxed. All of this is happening against a backdrop of unpaid wages. Anybody here a Kentucky Fried Chicken fan? Well, Kentucky Fried Chicken fans will be glad to know that when the full-scale invasion happened, Kentucky Fried Chicken pulled out of Russia. They sold off their assets for pennies on the dollar to some Russian oligarch friend of Putin's, who is running the chain into the ground, apparently. We have reports that KFC has just closed 25 restaurants and laid off about 10% of the staff. After we have reports that in some locations, people have not been paid their salary in 4 months. And this is a trend. This isn't an isolated incident. We are increasingly hearing about wage arrears across the Russian Federation. Most notably, we saw 150 Russian nuclear physicists walk off the job strike because they hadn't been paid in 3 months. You're not paying your nuclear physicists, but you keep threatening us with nukes? Why would we believe any of them work? You're not paying anybody. It's a joke. I mean, it's really... And I say this, even as I shiver in the dark here in Kyiv. Fuck them. Fuck them in the ear. Even the propaganda machine inside of Russia is showing the strain as they increasingly have to report that the economy is going down the shitter, but that they have faith in the heroic perseverance of the Russian people in the face of our enemies. That's what they're telling everybody to do. They're telling everybody to tighten their belts and fill their bellies with hate at the West, who is the cause of all your suffering. These lies cannot work forever. It is completely delusional. It is completely delusional, Scully, of these people. Now, this is all happening, right? We're seeing these manpower shortages at the front, manpower shortages across the Russian economy. There is a labor shortage of about maybe 2 million workers right now, economists estimate. Meanwhile, equipment depletion has virtually emptied the Soviet stockpiles. The tanks are gone. The armored personnel carriers are gone. Air defense systems are being eroded. We got video today of six Russian surface-to-air missile systems destroyed in the last 48 hours. A total of 18 since the first of the year. All of them, well, these 6 were all in the Donetsk and Zaporizhia areas. But the locations of these 18 are in the temporarily occupied territories. Boom, baby, boom, baby, boom, baby, boom. Yeah, and Moscow is down due to snow. What do you mean down due to snow? The airports are closed? Or are they suffering power outages and equipment failures? I don't know anything about this. That's why I'm asking. But I'm interested. I'm very interested. Now, these 6 systems in the last 48 hours. Hey, Louise. Nice to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Hope your boots are clean. These six systems, sorry. Strela 10. This is the 57th Strela 10 confirmed destroyed in this war. Now, the Russians had about 300 of these, we think, at the start of the war. So what is that? That's about 15% of all of them. And it's an $8 million piece of air defense. Then we saw 2 Book M1s destroyed at $26 million apiece. 2 Tor M2s at $26 million apiece. And finally, a radar for an S-300 system. Now, the system itself is about $130 million. We don't know what the price of the individual radar truck is, but it hardly matters because without the radar, the system doesn't fucking work. They're all just paperweights. And the radar is gone. 18 surface-to-air missile systems or components destroyed since the first of the year. In the last 48 hours alone, a minimum of $112 million in air defense systems just went up in smoke. And meanwhile, President Zelensky announced today that what was the exact word he used? Wait, I have the quote here. That a serious package of air defense missiles arrived today. President Zelensky, quote, "Until this morning, we had several air defense systems without missiles." Until this morning. Now, we don't know when they ran out of missiles. But I'll tell you, this big attack last week that plunged this city into darkness, I'll bet you they didn't have them then. I'll bet you that's exactly why that attack was so successful. Because since Trump has been in office, we have done jack shit for Ukraine. We don't know who they came from, Ivan, or I don't anyway. I can't say. But remember, I just made the appeal, right? And certainly this had nothing to do with my appeal. I'm not suggesting that. But we were talking last night about what can Europe do? Well, Europe has these missiles from the Americans who won't give them in their stockpiles. So somebody must have dug into their stockpiles and shared with Ukraine. And they may very well not want anybody to know about why that happened because of Trump, right? Suppose it's the Danes. Like the Danes are already having enough problems with Trump. They don't need more. A lot of people are saying they know where they came from. I can't confirm any of that. I saw nothing in the press releases on this that specified where they were from. Not to say any of you are wrong. I just don't know and I can't confirm it. Now, Zelensky also said something that I want to believe, something that I'm desperate to believe, but I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Right, I was just echoing Zelensky last night. That's all I'm saying. Zelensky said that he believes we are close to ending the war. Now, is that just something you say to placate tantrum Trump? Is it something he really believes? Is he trying to light the flame of hope as Ukrainians all across the country are suffering in this cold and from these targeted strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure? I don't know. I don't know. So he said it, though. He did say it. So I thought it was worth repeating. Now, you guys know, or most of you who follow this channel will know who GRU Unit 29155 is. This is the special unit of the Russian intelligence services that is responsible for kinetic strikes abroad. So they're the ones, the British all know them because they're the ones responsible for the Salisbury poisonings of the Skripals. The Czechs will know this name because they're the ones who blew up the Czech ammo dumps back in 14, and the Bulgarian ammo dump in 2011. These are the guys who are suspected and who Michael Weiss and 60 Minutes, in their report 2 years ago, which I covered extensively on this channel, blame for Havana syndrome. Have you heard of this Havana syndrome or anomalous health incidents? It actually started before Cuba. But back in 2014, we had incidents in Frankfurt, Germany, and in Tbilisi, Georgia, where intelligence officers of the United States, who had been assigned to the bureau here in Kyiv, suddenly started suffering terrible symptoms. They were suddenly, exactly, Lola, the sound. They felt like they were hit with sound, loud sound on one side of their head, became dizzy, vomited, nauseous, and had life-changing damage done to their brains. One guy was blinded in one eye by this. He's legally blind now. There's another guy who has to wear a weighted vest because his vertigo is so bad that 10 years after it happened, he has trouble standing up. Headaches, nausea, an inability to focus, visible brain damage. You put these guys in an MRI and you can see, exactly, Maddie, just like the symptoms of a concussion. You can see the bruising in their brains. And a theory had been advanced that this was some kind of directed energy weapon and that it was being used, it had been developed by the Russians and used on U.S. intelligence assets around the globe, particularly in Havana, Cuba. And the evidence for all of this is well documented in the 60 Minutes piece and in Michael Weiss's report in the Insider magazine, which is an independent Russian publication, opposition publication that does great reporting on the Kremlin and what's happening inside Russia. I quote them all the time on here, right? Well, CNN's Zach Cohen has just broken a story that the U.S. government in the last days of the Biden administration was able to purchase a pulse radio frequency weapon that fits in a backpack and have been studying it for a year. Now, what is the administration saying about this? They're saying that they purchased it on the black market, that they spent millions of dollars to acquire it. It uses pulse radio waves to cause organic damage to the target. It is loaded with Russian components. So while it's got semiconductors in it from China, it's got Japanese transistors, it's got a motherboard printed by Intel in the United States, it's loaded with components that could only have been manufactured in Russia, inside Russia. And it fits in a backpack. Now, here's the big question. Is it the same weapon? Is it a knockoff? Does the weapon that induces Havana syndrome even exist? Is that a real thing? Because while we have lots of evidence to indicate it, We don't have the smoking gun, and we don't know that this is the smoking gun, because nobody's going to point this at a human being, we hope, to test it that way, right? So my concern when I heard this story was that if American intelligence agencies were able to go on the dark web, find this thing, buy it covertly, how many more of them are there? And to whom have they been sold? Now, with the price tag that's on it of millions of dollars, that's all we know, millions with an S, there's very few buyers for it, right? But those buyers do exist. So are we looking at a new age of black market proliferation of a weapon that leaves no forensic evidence? There's no bullet hole. There's no casings. There's no gunpowder residue. There's nothing. And how did it get out? Why did it get out? Could it be that somebody high up in the FSB, like General Avrionov, who has recently been reported killed, though we don't have that confirmed, could he or his son, who was being groomed to take over Unit 29155, could they have decided that it was in their interest to make this weapon for themselves and put some cash in the bank before they have to flee a dying regime? We don't know. We don't know. You heard an 8-figure cost, Leo. 8 figures. Well, let's see. 6 figures is 100,000. 7 figures is $1 million. 10 million or more, you're saying. And I don't know. I watched the CNN reports. Cohen did not quote a figure in the reports that I saw. Now, curiously enough, because there's only, like, the thing about J.D. Vance is he's never really had enough power to do anything that would convince me he's a Russian asset, right? But he says some very Russian asset-y things. And it turns out that 2 years ago, when Michael Weiss and The Insider and 60 Minutes published all their data on this thing, J.D. Vance tweeted out the article and said, some journalists seem to have lost their damn minds. Now that right there, if you're a Russian asset and your Russian handlers don't want the world to know you have this weapon, that is definitely the kind of thing that you would put on social media. So, again, I can't say for sure, but it you know, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, swims like a duck, it's probably a Russian traitor. Now, Emmanuel Macron is made a very interesting claim. He said that France has now outpaced America and is providing Ukraine with 2/3 of its intelligence data. Now, he made this claim with no evidence, and this claim does contradict a statement by General Budanov back in December 16th. Budanov confirmed that most Ukrainian intelligence continues to come from the United States. So interesting that he said that. Now, what kind of intelligence is this? According to Budanov, the deep strikes into Russia, particularly refineries and targets like the Yalabuga Shahed drone plant in Tatarstan, would not have been possible without routing selection, altitude adjustments, and other mission details provided by U.S. intelligence. And so it's not clear if France is able to supply that same level of detail and valuable data to the current situation. And it's not even clear that Macron was accurate, or if he wasn't just puff-pastering up his own brie. It's not clear. But he did make the case. Now, Dennis Shmyhal, the new energy secretary or minister for Ukraine, made an address to the parliament today. I think it was today. Might have been yesterday. And I mentioned this earlier, 612 strikes over the past year against Ukrainian infrastructure. There is no power plant in Ukraine that has not been hit. Here in Ukraine, he is facing criticism because in this speech before Parliament and the press, he also revealed potential security operational data that he shouldn't have. For example, he said that Ukraine has 20 days of fuel reserves. That is not something you want your enemy to know. That is not something that you want the public to know. You know, you want everybody to think things are okay as much as possible. And you definitely don't want the enemy to know how effective they have been or what the limits on your capacity are. I agree, Deep Blue, it's a major breach. Perhaps even worse than the 20% fuel disclosure. He also shared details over how the power plants are being protected. Now everybody knows. Maybe it's misinformation. If it's misinformation, that would be great. But if it's not, then now everybody knows that critical power plant components, the current energy minister, Deep Blue, Dennis Shmyhal, that critical energy infrastructure is now being encased in thick concrete sarcophagi that are thick enough to stand up to a Shahed drone hit. Now, if I know that, because he said it publicly, the Russians know it. So what will they do? They can do a lot of things, right? They can use different drones to hit power plants with bigger warheads that can get through that concrete. They can up the charge, the amount of payload on the Shaheds. And they're going to start working on that immediately. So that may have been misinformation to distract the enemy, or it may have been the first blunder of his tenure as energy secretary. He went on to say that attacks on energy infrastructure are intensifying, and we can expect more. Deep Blue, the problem with the cruise missiles is that the Ukrainians shoot them down. Ukrainians have a great track record of shooting down the KH-101 cruise missiles. He went on to say that no one has ever faced the challenges that the Ukrainian people are facing at this time. And I think that's true. In the history of modern warfare, we have never seen a city of 4 million have its energy infrastructure targeted the way that it's being targeted here at a time when the weather is so fierce and antithetical to human life. Thanks, Jordan. The UK, where's all my UK peeps? Man, you motherfuckers, you are just really putting the US to shame, I'll tell you. The UK has just granted $20 million for energy infrastructure immediately to Ukraine. So that puts $20 million in the pocket of the Ukrainians to help with this energy situation. All right, so that's it for my top line news. Let me thank, Arna, I didn't mention you earlier. I'm so sorry. Arna is the sponsor of tonight's live. Thank you, Arn, who is a great friend to this channel and one of the ninjas who were our sponsors last night. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and of course to the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. Thank you all. Now let's go to Q&A here. Terry Day wants to know why Russians have Starlink. Why do they, Terry Day? Why are they strapping Starlinks to Shaheds? Well, you know why they're strapping Starlinks to Shaheds. To improve accuracy. To get that thing to its target. That's why. Because they have terrible accuracy, right? How is it possible that they have Starlink without the collusion of Elon Musk? That's the real question. Because Elon Musk can easily geofence Russia, and it's supposed to be geofenced. Now, I know what people will say. They'll say there's lots of ways to get around this bullshit. Musk shuts down Starlink in Russia, and it's shut down. It's called geofencing. There is no reason he cannot do that. None. Or he could set up white lists for the temporarily occupied territories, if that's the concern, and only allow the registered Starlink units who are with the Ukrainian armed forces to work. Just whitelist the region, geofence it that way. There is no reason he can't stop it. Now, of course, what Starlink is saying, or what's the parent company called? Whatever it is. They're saying, look, it's not our fault. The Russians are buying these things using United Arab Emirates accounts in the United Arab Emirates. They're going to Dubai and they're buying them in Dubai, or getting shell companies to buy them there and ship them to them. And I'm sure that that's true. I'm sure that that's happening. But it does not change the fact that Elon Musk has all the power in the world to geofence these and prohibit them from working. That's an easy thing to do. So no, Elon Musk is a Russian asset. If you read his X, there's no doubt about it. Does Ukraine have ATACMS left? Probably not, Ivan. Probably not. Not at this point. I don't see how they possibly could. I mean, maybe 2 or 3. We were given a count. Gosh, it must have been right at the start of the Trump administration that they had 10 in inventory. And we know that there were 2 strikes using those ATACMS since. I can't imagine that they have many at all. Isn't his father a regular visitor to Russia? Elon's dad? I don't know anything about Elon's dad, except that he had an emerald mine and he spoiled his son rotten. Oh, geofencing is that's easy to do. That's a well-known, understood technology. Whitelisting is a well-known, well-understood technology. No reason it can't be done. Microwaves only travel in straight lines, so it's easy to geofence. There you go, Seawolf. Thanks. If Musk knows that Starlink Russians have, maybe that's useful location intelligence. Yeah, it would be, Deep Blue, but I don't know that he's sharing it with the Ukrainians. No, they're not reverse engineering them. They're just buying them off the shelves in third-party countries. Dub wants to know why they haven't used the Flamingo. Well, they have. We have a couple of combat operations that are confirmed to have used the Flamingo. But you're right. They're not using them en masse. And I think that that's because they don't have any. They maybe had 200 when they told us about it. Maybe, according to official numbers, they are making 30 a month. That would mean now they have 290. We know that in the attacks that they were used in, 2 out of 3 of them were shot down by the Russians. They do not have the intelligence, avoidance, and anti-detection technology of an American Tomahawk, say, or even an American ATACMS. They don't have those things. They're easy to shoot down. So Ukraine must stockpile them before they start using them for them to be any kind of an effective capability. And I think we're in the stockpiling phase now. When they let them loose, who knows how many we'll see fly. But it'll be enough that enough get through to the targets. There'll be successful missions when it happens. Stu, I doubt it. It's not impossible. So Stu wants to know, the Lithuanians sent an entire Soviet-era power plant that they disassembled in Lithuania and sent on 149 flatbeds to Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are in the process of putting it back together here and get it up and running. But I do not know that it is up and running yet. What about the Abrams tanks? You don't hear about those. So anybody who follows this channel has heard a great deal about the Abrams tanks lately. Should I leave it up to you guys? Would you like to answer Mr. Blah, Blah, Blah's question, which may have been genuinely asked, or may just be a bullshit distraction? With a name like that, it's hard to tell. Why does Trump have bulletproof ears? Oh, Mr. Tangerine Man is a Russian asset. Definitely he is. Musk is using geofencing to restrict Grok. Of course he is. He wants you to pay for it. I don't know, Rolls. That's not a sentence in English. You having a Yandex failure there, buddy? Hey, Kansas Steve. How you doing, buddy? So Richard Chapman there regarding the Abrams says, according to Australia, they are performing very well. Yes, they are. Specifically, where have those Abrams been deployed? Can anybody tell me? That was a little dig, Dave. That was a little dig. What are your thoughts on NATO troops taking up positions in Greenland? Okay, let's just talk about the Abrams. Pokrovsk. So the 49 Abrams, it was America that sent 31, right? The Australians sent more Abrams than we did. And a lot of the ones that we sent were destroyed by now, right? They're out in the battlefield, they're getting blown up. But they are very resilient and have saved lots of Ukrainian lives. The new batch that just got here from Australia, some of them have been deployed to Pokrovsk, where Russian positions south of the railroad tracks have come under constant fire as these tanks collapse the houses and buildings that the Russians are hiding in the basements of. So that's where the Abrams are right now. Now, so far, since the Pokrovsk deployment last Friday, I think was when we got word that they were there, one was disabled, but it was towed off the battlefield. So it's not destroyed, it's being repaired. So Louise, that's a great question. Here's what's important to understand. Russia's got 140 million people, they claim, right? Ukraine maybe had 40 million at the start. There's maybe 28 million here still. Where is Russia getting its soldiers? It's not. This is so important to understand. They used to be able to replace the soldiers lost every month, plus some. That is no longer the case. And it is now thought that that has not been the case for 6 months. Last month, they lost 33,000 troops, if I'm not mistaken. 33,000 troops last month. They recruited 13,000 men. You can't have a deficit of 20,000 men a month. Or in 5 months' time, you have a deficit of 100,000 men. And then those front lines are looking very, very fucking brittle. So no, it's getting bad. Oh, Terry Day, that was terrible. That was so cruel the way that they tortured that kid to death. Just so cruel. Poof. Putin can't afford to worry about China. He's too deeply indebted to them. So I'm sure that he's planning on turning around and fucking them, betraying them in the end. But in the meantime, he can't say fuck all to the Chinese. He never even said a word when their official map of China included parts of Russian territory. Never even complained one bit. Colombian volunteers in Ukraine are right now cleaning house in Kupiansk. Okay, it's 1 a.m. Kansas Steve, you want to come up and give us a letters from Wichita kind of update? You have any interest in that? And in the meantime, let me again thank Arna, who is our sponsor of tonight's live. Let me thank Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group, and of course, the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk, Maddie S. Wright, Feisty, Roy Daniels, and Travis Ray. So that concludes the official Live at 5 from Kyiv. And let's do a special update from Wichita, Kansas. Oh, for the love of God, give me 1 second here, Steve. This stupid thing wants me to do a puzzle to continue my live.
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
let's do a special update. Look, America is in crisis. It's my opinion that the federal system of government in the United States has been subverted in an active coup by a malign foreign agent in the re-election of Donald Trump and his criminal gang of ghouls and goblins who are right now on the streets of America destroying, wiping their ass with the Constitution and daring to say to Americans, you will comply or die. Didn't you learn your lesson? And out there on the streets in Kansas is our buddy Kansas Steve. Kansas, how you doing, pal?
Hey, everybody, doing well. Just trying to keep fighting the good fight, man. Still protesting every Saturday.
I can't hear you, Steve. You muted?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Is it my volume?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
It might be my volume. Hold on. Say something.
Hello? Testing.
Thank you, sir. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Just trying to fight the good fight here. We're still protesting every week. We're in season 2 of Antifa America. We're not stopping. We're not slowing down. And we're branching out to a lot of different areas politically, locally. Super active. And I tell you what, I thought we had good intel with the group that I was with, in Ukraine, as far as getting information. Holy cow, man. The women in Wichita have a network like you wouldn't believe, man. If they need to find something out, they find it out in minutes. It's amazing what they can do. So
here they call it the Babushka Network.
Yeah, exactly. But it's cool too because we're getting people that are running for senator and different Congress levels that are coming out to our protest. They understand that we're the people are going to get it done if and be their voices if they're if they come down and they see us, and that's what I think is so important. I mean, we got to hit this at all levels. If we're going to do anything to stop this or slow it down, we got to take them out at the grassroots level, in my opinion.
Now, well, the grassroots is the only way to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that bottom up process is what distinguishes America more than any other nation on earth, I think. And our commitment to that bottom up change has led to the greatest revolutions in human society over the last 200 years. But it has sadly been replaced by the cult of personality with our tangerine Palpatine. Let me ask you, you guys have mostly been kind of, am I wrong when I say that you've mostly been kind of a generalized anti-Trump, pro-democracy kind of movement?
Yep, exactly.
And you existed and have been doing this since before ICE came to our streets.
Yeah.
Has ICE reared its ugly head in Wichita?
There's been whispers of them popping up here and there, but nothing substantial. Definitely in Kansas City, which is only about 3.5 hours away. So I wouldn't doubt that they would pop their head in here. I mean, it's a largely Republican town. It's weird about Kansas. It's the Republicans like own the legislature, but we have a Democratic governor. So he doesn't like the governor, but he gets on. So I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of action here or not. It's typically only the states where he has a problem with the governors of the states.
Like how dare Tim Walz run against him? And how dare they put that Derek Chauvin in jail for murdering George Floyd? I really do think Minneapolis was chosen as this staging ground for those two reasons, because it was the birthplace of the Black Lives Matter movement, and it was the former candidate for vice president's state.
Do you remember when he said that he wanted to use U.S. cities as training grounds for for the military?
Yep.
Isn't that kind of what they're doing right now by surging in all these ICE agents into Minneapolis? Is kind of I've heard it called the petri dish to kind of to start it all out to see what all he can get away with.
Yep. Now, have you noticed too that the large scale and violent enforcement actions have moved from big cities like LA and New York to more medium-sized cities, more manageable cities like Minneapolis?
Oh, sure. They're going after as many soft targets as they can get. I mean, because from what I'm saying, they're getting bonuses. I'm sure they're getting bounties for just grabbing people off the street. It doesn't even matter.
And have you heard now that they're going to Lewiston, Maine is next on the list?
It's a blue state, so I would imagine, yeah. If they got I can't imagine why.
Well, you know why, right? Because it's a deeply blue state. It's got a senator, what's her name? Susan Collins, who's a Republican, but has voted against Trump in the past. And it's a town of, gosh, I want to say maybe 60,000. My ex-wife and I, we had a bed and breakfast in Old Orchard Beach, Maine in the mid-90s. And we used to go over to Lewiston for supplies and shopping and stuff. And I think it's about 60,000. But dude, I think that in the minds of Trump and Miller, it's a small town. It's Maine, which is very conservative. There won't be the volume of resistance. But I'm sorry, the motherfuckers in Lewiston are all armed and ready to fight on a Friday night after a couple of beers. I think the exact opposite. Rather than be a place where they can go in and be the big men, they're going to find it's a place where they quickly learn who the big men are. And the big men do not give a fuck about their badges.
They don't. They're not really popular in going to places where stand your ground laws are in effect, or I think even conceal and carry. I think is other places they don't like to go. So yeah, they like I said, they go soft targets is where they're going.
Ugh. Yeah, I know, Louise, but it worries me. It worries me because it's going to start happening. I mean, the violence has already begun against ICE in the form of wrecked vehicles. Have you seen any of that, Steve?
Yeah, I saw a little bit about that. I'm not. I don't encourage that. I mean, that was the same thing when they were going after Elon and burning, Teslas and stuff like that. That's I. We don't have. We don't want to do anything like that. Our group isn't anything about that. And I don't think people should be doing that. I think that's kind of stupid. I mean, keep your distance and protest. That's it. I mean,
So,
organize and I mean, I don't. I don't agree with antagonizing them. Honestly, I don't. I think that's probably kind of silly. It's not. It doesn't do any good.
it's
Honestly,
counterproductive.
very much so.
It's counterproductive. No, you're always very professional and courteous with people. And that is key because what they want is to incite violence so
Mhm.
that then they can call in the military, right? He can pull the Insurrection Act out of his ass and call in the military. Um, and certainly, I don't condone the violence against the vehicles. The vehicles that were burned in Philadelphia, for example.
Mhm.
The thing about it is, we don't even know who burned them. It could well be the ICE fuckers themselves creating chaos and disinformation by their own self sabotage. Like that guy in Minneapolis who burned the American flag. Did you see that happen?
I wouldn't doubt there's going to be false flags being thrown in here with this shit. No doubt.
False flags, exactly.
Hmm.
There was a kid in Minneapolis who burned an American flag at an ICE protest. And then he tried to slip away. People followed him, trying to find out who he was and why he was there, and condemning that action. Um, could have been a false flag operative of ICE, could have been an accelerationist, just some anarchist looking to accelerate the fall. We don't know, but it was extremely suspicious. And any of these kinds of actions, I think, should be viewed with extreme suspicion until we know who did it.
Well, that's a big reason when I do my live streams, doing our protest, and I make sure everybody that I see there at the protest, I get them on camera. I don't care who it is. I don't care if they're just walking by. Everything. I always get everybody on camera if I can, because I mean that's you never know what if something happens, you can always go back to it.
Document,
Yeah.
document, document. Tim Walz made that point in a speech I saw on Tuesday, I think, uh, that he wants people to stay back, don't interfere, but get your cameras out and record it all. You never know when some piece of that footage is going to be critical in holding these bastards accountable.
Absolutely. I mean, we get counter protesters from time to time when we come out there, and all we do is just, the it's pretty funny. I mean, they just kind of laugh at him, smile, and say, "Oh, you're cute," You're going to, and the funny thing is, too, is we've never had anybody get in trouble for anything protesting to the whole past year, and they protest like 5 or 6 days a week all across the city. But every time the counter protesters come out and try and act tough and burn their, spin their tires and burn their tires and try and, smoke the area up, they always get tickets. Everyone, so everybody, there's like four or five different people that have gotten tickets out there. And as soon as they burn through the intersection, and then you hear the cop sirens come on just a few minutes later, everybody on the whole block starts cheering. it's, it's It's
Well, when the
outstanding.
cops do their jobs, it's nice. I just want to call out Lars Koff here is saying The flag burning guy has been outed as MAGA. I don't remember his name. That's unsurprising to me.
Well, and we did have a guy. There was a group doing a vigil for Renee Good just last week. Had some crazy dude come in, had a mask on, and just started doing the Heil Hitler all around and saying all kinds of stuff about that. I mean, just it was nasty. A bunch of gross, nasty stuff. And then these are older people just sitting around praying. And it was insane. Luckily, the guy got it all on tape. They got it to the cops. And the funny thing was, he was trying to start a fight, pick a fight with people and stuff like that. And when they followed him back to his car, his wife was driving him.
Please tell me that there was a breathalyzer on the steering wheel.
I think there probably was, because when they went and looked at his bio and his background, I guess he'd been in trouble for all kinds of stuff. He's not allowed to be around anybody under the age of 16 without other consenting adult, that kind of shit. Yeah, so that's what you get with these people. They're freaking criminals.
That's who it is.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Did you see the latest slew of Trump pardons?
I wouldn't doubt it. How much are they paying for him now? Is it $1 million to $5 million? I think is what the going price is.
Well, it seems to be about $1 million a pop. Yeah. There was a group of 3 fraudsters. The daughter paid $3.5 million to MAGA Inc. I think is the name of the organization. MAGA Inc. $3.5 million to MAGA Inc. To get off the hook a bunch of fraudsters who are, the worst part of that is these people have victims. The victims are entitled to remuneration for the fraud that was committed until Trump pardons them. Once he pardons them, then the settlements are out the window. The victims get nothing. These bastards get to keep the money they stole from unsuspecting Americans.
Well, and then they give their pittance to Trump.
Exactly. Oh, I stole $60 million that I have to give back. If I just give Trump $3 million, I can keep $57 million and fuck everybody I stole it from.
That's the game. Yep. And it's wide open, too. It's wide out in the open.
It's wide out in the open. Although I'll tell you, we did get a bit of good news this week.
What's up?
Did you see that Donald Trump is going to control all the money from the Venezuelan oil?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And did you see where he's putting the money?
Qatar? Or no, where was it?
No, you're right. In a bank account in Qatar. Qatar.
Yeah. Qatar, yeah.
Dude, to me, that is right out of the dictator playbook. When things are going to shit, stash money someplace no one can get at it but you. Let's hope that Qatari account is a sign that Trump knows it's almost over.
So, what was the whole deal with snatching Maduro? That just seemed like frickin' batshit crazy to me. I mean, the only person, I don't know. I still don't understand it because the oil companies don't want to have anything to do with going there.
No, but you know for whom it's very important. Or I shouldn't say that. Steve, I don't know anymore if I'm crazy or if I should be wearing a tinfoil hat or if I'm just so deep into what Russia's doing in Ukraine that I see Russia everywhere. But I cannot help but think that the snatching of Maduro has something to do with the Trump-Putin pact, where the Americas belong to America and Russia gets Europe. That in these two bastards in their minds have decided to split the world up. And, well, in fact, this isn't even my idea, because it was Fiona Hill in her testimony before Congress during Trump's second impeachment over the Ukraine phone call. Fiona Hill testified that the Russians had floated to Trump that he could have Venezuela if he let them have Ukraine. So there's that aspect of it. Then there's the aspect of the absolute floor falling out of oil prices, right? We got data today from Bloomberg that the average barrel of Russian oil for the first week of the year was $35 a barrel. Wouldn't it be great for Russia to take the Venezuelan oil and the Iranian oil off the market to buoy up oil prices? No matter what Trump does, whether it's intentionally to benefit Moscow or not, it does always seem to benefit Moscow. And in the case of Maduro, both of those outcomes are very real and positive for Moscow. Although the loss of income from Venezuela is very difficult for Moscow, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's the thing is I knew that Trump was going out. He went after Maduro in his first term. He had a bounty on him the first time around, $20 million. He got a bunch of ex-CIA and SEALs and stuff like that, got unalived down there trying to take, just trying to go into a country and steal. It was like 20, 30 guys trying to go in there and take him, and they all got taken captive. And I think that was a part of the deal, too, with the Venezuelan vice president, get some of those people released. But yeah, he tried to go after them before, so this wasn't anything new.
Right. Well, again, that testimony from Fiona Hill was in 2019. Mm-hmm. So, that's 7 years ago. I don't remember that. I don't remember that happening down there during his first term.
It's not very well known. Not very well publicized. I remember coming across it a couple of times a while back when I was digging into why he wanted, all of his stuff that he did during his first term. And that was one of the things that I dug up.
Interesting. I want to, Den here says, Trump is forgetting that Europe is U.S.'s biggest trading partner and we will resist. Yeah. Look, I don't know whether Trump is forgetting these things or if he is just ignorant of them. But America without NATO is not the superpower that it is. America without American prosperity depends on European prosperity and peace. You're one of our biggest export markets. The expensive shit we make here, you guys can afford. We've been getting along great for 80 years. Why on earth would you want to destroy NATO and attack an ally if you are not in cahoots with Putin? And I really, Steve, I'll tell you, I know it's crazy, but I am convinced that just like Molotov and Ribbentrop had their pact in 1939, the details of which we didn't get until the Nuremberg trials, I absolutely believe that Trump and Putin have a pact. And Greenland is part of it. Venezuela is part of it. I don't know. Maybe I should get the tinfoil hat on, huh?
But then what does Putin actually get in return? Because you've seen already his military, he's not going to take Ukraine. Unless U.S. turns full fucking enemy and starts helping Russia, they're not going to take Ukraine. So he's losing in this deal if he made a deal with them, big time.
The thing is that Putin believes he's winning. I mean, as crazy as that is to say, by all accounts, from everything I can see, Putin genuinely believes that his victory here is inevitable. And that kind of delusion, it is tough to disabuse somebody of.
I don't know. With what happened to Syria, and what happened to Syria, he didn't, they couldn't save their base there. He can't help Maduro. He can't help Iran. He can't help any of his allies if they get in trouble.
But Steve, his allies do not exist for him to help them.
Yeah.
That's never their purpose,
You think
right?
they're
Like this,
realizing that now?
right? That's right. You know what you're getting when you get Russia as a friend. Look at what the Iranians did when the Russians didn't have any drones and the Ukrainians started using drones, because it is important to remember that no drones appeared on the battlefield here for the first 8 months of the war.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Ukrainians that started using them. The Russians didn't have any. They turned to the Iranians for the Shaheds. And the initial batches of drones, the Iranians raked them over the coals. $250,000 a piece. It paid in gold, stolen from Africa. So it's honor among thieves. These bastards will rip each other off.
I have heard that, that's where Russia's downfall is going to be, they're all among thieves of each other, all these dictators. As to where Zelensky has friends. I mean, Ukraine has a lot of friends.
And that's what wins wars, alliances.
Yeah.
And Trump and his predatory pedophile gang, they don't seem to get it. Because they're the same way. You can be sure, just like the Third Reich and the USSR had plans to screw each other after Molotov-Ribbentrop, the Trump-Putin arrangement, they both plan to screw each other too. Hey, Doc. Hey, Kansas Steve, it's Dr. K. You want to say anything, or are you in your pajamas, Mama? Trump and Putin are only interested in money and power. Don't forget power. Power is very important to them.
Mm-hmm. And I tell you, and like you say, Trump wants this hemisphere. He wants the whole kit and caboodle. He wants Canada. He wants Mexico. He wants everybody to fall in line. If you don't fall in line, I'm going to put a puppet in there.
Yep. The Greenland thing, it does seem that he's hit a wall inside the United States in terms of our own domestic politics with Greenland. 87% of Americans are opposed to going into Greenland by force. And with good reason. We have no need to go in there with force. We can have as many military installations there as we like. We've abandoned 30 of them over the last 50 years.
Yep.
It's insane. All right, we're well over the usual time. Steve, you want to say anything else while you got everybody here?
No, man. I just that I'm still pulling for Ukraine every day. Slava Ukraini, Herom Slava, Putin Huilo. I'm still plugging away at it. I just don't do as many lives because I got a lot of them taken down I lost my main account.
Did you?
Oh yeah. This is my back because I permanently banned just for doing political lives. So I've kind of cut back on doing that. U.S. I think next week is going full over U.S. Ownership of TikTok. So yeah, I think the whole MAGA agenda is going to be first and forward on TikTok going forward.
Well, I won't last long then.
Yep, it was fun while it lasted.
It was great while it lasted.
Now you're doing a great job. Appreciate the information. I love jumping in and listening to what's going on.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Great to have you. So big thanks to Kansas Steve for dropping by, fighting the good fight down in Wichita. I'm going to call it a night, guys. Big thanks to Arna, who was the sponsor of tonight's live. If TikTok is coming to an end, certainly if it's all going MAGA, I'm not going to be welcome here. So maybe before we go, join my Patreon. You can get a free account, keep up with what happens next. Or if you are so inclined, join the Patreon and help keep me in business. Because if TikTok's going away, I don't know what I'm going to do. All right, kids. Thanks, everybody. Make it a great day and have a pleasant tomorrow.